And sometimes what happens is when we're in that situation and it's hard for us to believe in ourselves, we tend to gravitate towards people around us who also don't believe in us, or they believe in us to the same level that we do. So if our level's here, we're going to mix with people who are here, so sometimes it's also about who are we mixing with, and do they focus on what's strong or what's wrong? And that can also be a clue as to, I guess, the quality of the relationships that we have. And it's not that we need people to focus on our strengths to help build our sense of self, but the reality is that when we don't, and we don't have a strong sense of self, it's going to bring us down.
This is Get Unstuck Podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who prioritize their life first, business second. I'm Mudita Panmuk, your host, who dedicates my life to designing and building a business that supports lifestyle. We will learn together from entrepreneurs around the world how they overcome their life challenges, their business obstacles, and yet still get unstuck from the hamster wheel of burying themselves into their business. Because time is the number one commodity in the world that you cannot get back once it's gone. So let's shorten the learning curve and see how can we prioritize better. Let's get unstuck. Hi, Get Unstuck Nation. Our guest today, we have her to share her unique transformation story. But it's not only that, because this is something that we as a human encounter every single day. Guess what? Conflict. So Rosemary Gattuso is a mediator, and she's also self-confessed chronic overthinker who has transformed this potential hindrance into an asset. And she's an author of a book called It's Not You, It's Me, a chronic overthinker's guide to self-reflection. Something interesting already, isn't it? So if you are facing challenges, overthinking, and you already like, oh God, this caused me procrastinating, and it's something that you already have in mind and you cannot overcome it, this episode is going to guide you how to embrace, and you maybe have an outcome and get unstuck out of it. So this episode is for you. Without further ado, please welcome Rosemary to Get Unstuck Podcast. Hi, Rosemary. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
It's lovely to be here.
So before we get started to this journey, this is something that is in between, right? I think there are big two types of people that I have encountered with. One is the one who take action without thinking. And another type would be those who thinking a lot, planning a lot, and not doing anything. So what is your journey? How is this journey started?
Well, I guess my story is really about the merging of many parts of me, because I've been a mediator and in conflict resolution for many years, and then went into to specialize in family mediation, working with separating parents who are reestablishing their roles and responsibilities with each other. And then at the same time, I also became a counsellor and became interested in human behaviour and the reasons behind the behaviour that I was seeing in the mediation room. And that led me to explore the childhood experience and as well as childhood trauma. And then in the background of all of this, I had been writing stories for many years, and I always wanted to write a book. And so I was just collecting stories, and it really came to a head when my stories seemed to merge what I was seeing in the mediation rooms, in the way people manage conflict and manage adversity, and some of I guess what I was studying and seeing as a counsellor. And so I had all these stories set aside and got really motivated to finally finish when I found out about a writers' competition. And if you won the competition, you would win a publishing contract. And I really wanted that publishing contract. And I didn't win the competition, but what it did was it gave me a deadline. So I had to finish my book by a specific date, which I did. And at that time, it was a story about a chronic overthinker and the way that she managed her challenges. And then the final chapter of that book was a self-help book, which was really based on what I was seeing professionally as a mediator and a counsellor with an interest in, the reasons behind human behaviour. So it's sort of the merging of very different parts of me and my interests and this desire that I had for many years to write a book. And essentially, I didn't win the competition, but I realised that I couldn't have a book that was both fiction and non-fiction. So I then rewrote the final chapter as the entire book that is there today.
And why it's not you, it's me? What does that mean?
Well, that's really about our own inner journey, and that the way that we manage challenges and adversity is really dependent mostly on our own internal processing rather than the external stimulus and the things that are happening to us. And it's really based on my observations as a mediator, because I saw that there were trends that could almost predict outcomes. Or trends in the way that people would manage adversity. And so it was really about the lens or the approach that we took as individuals when going through personal crisis. And I guess, if we had a more sort of negative lens, it was much harder and much slower to overcome adversity, and we were more likely to be overcome by it. Whereas if we tended to be a little bit more positive, then we had a smoother transition. And I talk about positive and negative, but using what as a strengths-based approach, which is what I started using when I first became a mediator. Using that theory, we have two categories, and it's either two categories to really label what we're doing or what we're seeing and how we're responding. And it can either be anything that comes under what's wrong in that situation, or anything that comes under what's wrong. And this is really what I noticed in mediation, is that if we take the path of what's wrong and we look at everything that's gone bad, all the harm, everything that we've lost, what people have done to us, then as we go down that path, we get more evidence to really support that narrative. And then we can also become stuck in the past there. Whereas when we go down the path of what's strong, then it's easier to forgive, and it's easier to have a future focus and make decisions about the future, and even make decisions and rather than sort of staying in mistake mode, that we've made a mistake and we're not going to move forward because of our past mistakes. When we are able to stay more on what's strong than we do what's wrong, because we naturally see the negative, we naturally also go to what's wrong. But when we are able to sit a little longer in the what's strong, then we are able to move forward. We are able to turn mistakes into a learning opportunity and manage adversity a little bit better and smoother, and it also increases our resilience. So and these are really just from what I observed in the mediation room, dealing with conflict on a daily basis and personal crisis.
So once they're able to discover that, how can they stop overthinking about whether it's still match for them? Like, should they taking action right away or not? Sometimes they are stuck in the loop of like, even though this is strong for them to do or something like that, but still whether it's appropriate. I think sometimes I also stuck in that thinking as well.
Yeah. And well, look, what I propose is that overthinking is an analysis of a situation that focuses on what's wrong. Whereas when we're in reflection mode, we're analyzing a situation from the perspective of what's strong. And even when there are things that don't go as planned or as we would have liked, we can also reflect on that and see what can we do differently in the future, or what we have learned. And so then, part of it is about being able to reflect. And, in my own experience, I've learned the most in the times when I have gone down the path of what's wrong. and have been able to then process that and acknowledge that, and then use that, what would otherwise be a mistake or a reason for me to really self-criticize and go down the road of self-doubt because I did that again, or I didn't do that right, or things didn't go as planned. But that's when we can learn, because if we are able to reflect, and that means, reflect from the point of what's strong, that means we don't judge ourselves. We don't criticize. We show more understanding, we show respect, and we try to extract almost as if we're a witness. We're able to witness ourselves. And I guess, this idea of witness, because I originally had a little background, and, when you are a witness in a courtroom, you just tell what you see. You don't give an opinion. You don't make a judgment. You're not an expert. It's just, this is what happened. And sometimes that itself gives that detachment in that reflective process, because there's a risk here that in reflecting on our actions, we can get stuck in self-criticism, and it just gets worse. So if we can be a witness, or even, in my work as a mediator, I'm an independent party. I'm neutral. So I'm not there to judge or take sides or give an opinion. I'm just there to help facilitate a non-judgmental conversation. So if we can be our own mediator when we are going through our analysis, then that can help us stay on the non-judgmental side, to show more understanding and respect to ourselves as well as to others. But a lot of the times the internal dialogue puts ourselves down.
Is there any way that we can keep transforming our overthinking process on daily basis?
Yeah, well, I mean, just that awareness. I mean, I'll tell you, a little while ago, I was just walking down the street and thinking about something very trivial, but it suddenly occurred to me that I was looking at everything that was wrong in that. And it wasn't major. It wasn't a life-changing thing. It was just something silly. And then I thought, hold on, I need to read my book, because and it sort of occurred to me how easily it is for little things to go down that path. So number one is that awareness. And no matter how big or how small it is, it's that awareness that, okay, I'm going down the path of what's wrong. Can I stop? Or what would I be doing if I was going down the path of what's wrong? Where would I be focusing? So that awareness is important. And again, as I said, the reflection on past experiences, that's where we are able to learn a lot, once we are able to see it in a non-judgmental way and transform that into, how did it benefit me and how can I benefit from it in the future? And, as a meditating mediator, I encourage everyone I speak to meditate, because that is one practice that you can do on a daily basis, even just 5 minutes, that will, help change the structure of your brain, so that there's less, so that it tones down the parts of our brain that are more likely to go down that overthinking road and negative road. And it builds up, strengthens the parts of the brain that will make that reflective process a lot smoother and come more natural. And I know in myself, as a regular meditator, if I go through periods when I stop, which I do, because sometimes, life just happens, I notice straight away, because I become more reactive, So it's that, for me, regular meditation helps me become less reactive. So that's, I guess, one tool that you can do on a daily basis. And I mean, I say that's one thing you can do, and I know a lot of people struggle with meditating. I just encourage everyone to find a way that works for them. And when it becomes challenging, that means it's time to find another way. And even if you're there for 10 minutes and there's only maybe 2 minutes or 1 minute where you've got a clear mind, that's fine. I think that it's because it's more about consistency and doing it every day, because then that 1 or 2 minutes will become 3, or it'll be consistently 2 minutes, and you'll get that every day, which is fantastic.
What inspired you to cut yourself at least that when you go down to the what do you call it again, what's wrong path, and coming back to the strength-based approach.
Yeah. Well, one of the tools which I've also touched on a bit and draws on my legal background is about using the rules of evidence to help us manage the quality of our thoughts. Because I mean, in Australia, and I guess you've seen in many legal shows where there's a, you know, toing and throwing between the lawyers about whether or not something is admissible. So what I want you to do is think about, well, what's going to be admissible in my thoughts, you know, and if it's something that wouldn't be admissible in court, then why am I spending so much time on it? And these are things like jumping to conclusions, negative assumptions, things that don't have any basis or any evidence, an opinion, you know, a rumor, a gossip, all these kinds of things that really build on our anxiety and stress and might even make us take action to prevent something from happening, or we might not take action because we're worried that something might happen. And it's only based on really negative thought. So if we apply the rules of evidence, then we can only rely on evidence that can be verified by a person or a thing. So is there a witness who saw it and can say, this is what happened? And it's not about, you know, I think he was speeding. It's like, I saw him driving, you know, because the speeding part is the opinion. So how can we use those rules of evidence? If it's not admissible in court, then why are we putting so much emphasis on it? And, you know, once I came to a negative conclusion, it's something that I'm quite guilty of. I came to a really negative conclusion about someone. The details aren't even important, but it really upset me. I got really stressed out about it. And then maybe a month later, new information came to me and I realized how wrong I was, how I had completely jumped to conclusion. Now, I relied on that information, but it wouldn't be able to go in court. It wouldn't stand in court because it's not verified. But the thing is, I only realized that how wrong I was because I received this additional information. But then I thought, well, how many times do I jump to conclusions? And then that's it. It just stops there because I don't get new information to me that disproves my assumption and I just go with it. So using the rules of evidence can be, you know, quite a helpful way to manage jumping to conclusions, negative assumptions, and even just relying on opinion and gossip, because, you know, sometimes that can really get us down. And I mean, throughout my book, I have, you know, over 30 reflection tasks that build on this concept of being strengths-based and how we can be strengths-based in day-to-day living. And so, you know, sometimes it's a matter of, can we see what we're doing? Is it what's wrong or is it what's strong? Or it could be, well, I went down the path of what's wrong. In that instance, let me write down or just think about what I would have been doing if I was going down the path of what's strong. Because sometimes that can also help. And I've also got ways to help transform or uncover the meaning to some negative statements that we might make or beliefs which might be regrets or even statements that you know, I shouldn't have or I should have, because that's really self-doubt. So, you know, also look at ways to find out, why is that should or shouldn't? Why was that so important? And so I can give you an example is that, so I might criticize myself because I'm late, you know, something very simple that a lot of us do. I shouldn't be late, right? Then, you know, but if I look at, well, why is that important to me? So then I think, okay, I shouldn't be late, but it's important to me that I am on time, right? And sometimes it could be, well, what's the opposite? I shouldn't be late. Well, it's important to me that I am on time. But why is that important? It's important to me that I should be on time because it's important to me that I do what I say I'm going to do. Then we ask again, Why is it important for me to do? Why is that important? It's important to me because it shows integrity and respect. So we can keep going down and asking ourselves, why is it important? Or just rewriting that regret, that self-doubt, or that statement, rewriting it with, it's important to me. And most of the times you'll come up with a very a statement about values and morals that are important to you, showing integrity and respect, so, and then that gives, I shouldn't be late, that gives it more meaning. Well, that's why. And then sometimes just seeing it that way, as opposed to being a negative as to what's wrong, you're looking at what's wrong. Well, this is why. And so I'm going to do all that I can to not repeat that. And when I do, I'm not going to beat myself up.
I'm one of the person who have been feeling so bad and self-blame for many years. Like, I think one of the things is that because of the perfectionism, I'm also a lawyer, and I think that is one of the background. I don't want to say because of the profession, but it's kind of like gave us the way that we need to like be really cautious of all of the areas in a way that we need to be cover of the angles or something, and it's kind of a habit. And when we did something wrong, it tends to flash back and reflect back pretty hard. Like, past back few years ago, like there was a very big hit on the business, and I blame myself like really hard. Like, I'm still recovering, but it's getting a lot better. So when you say that self-blame, I learned like firsthand by myself. I still need to like really relearn how to don't put myself so hard on these things. Like, I can do wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
that's so bad.
and that's where, trying to see, well, what have I learned from this, as opposed to beating ourselves up. Or even, we will beat ourselves up, we will criticize ourselves, we will feel down about things that we have done, but maybe we won't stay there as long. That's my hope, because it's not about being on the what's strong path the whole time. That's impossible and unrealistic. It's about moving from one side to another, maybe a little quicker, or just reflecting and learning, so that we're not repeating the same patterns or the same mistakes. We're exploring life and doing new things. And if we make a mistake, we make a mistake, but we're able to still move forward and still take those risks, or have goals and dreams without letting the past stop us.
Oh, this caught me thinking, what about people who say sorry so often? Like,
Well,
like apologize so easily, like always be, how to say that, like today, for example, like when you mentioned about being late, like I am one of the person who like always say that. But like something wrong just a second, like say sorry already, but maybe not sure whether it's your fault or not, but already say sorry, already ask for apologize, whether it's your fault or not, but already say sorry.
I think sometimes for us it's easy to assume that we've done the wrong thing. And so when I look at when we do assume that we did the wrong thing, or that it's our fault, then it's about, well, what does this say about our sense of self? Because our sense of self, I see it as our ability to believe in ourselves. When our sense of self is strong, because it's not a concrete thing, it's something that goes up and down and moves and is different in different parts of our lives. So there might be some areas of our life where it's harder for us to believe in ourselves. And that's where we're going to be more likely to apologize for things, even if we're not sure if it was us, because maybe the assumption for us is that it is our fault. So what I look at, say, the sense of self is how much we believe in ourselves. And the sense of self is really made up of two things. and it's interactions with ourselves and interactions with others. And when I say others, it's anything external. So it could even be situations. And these interactions, they either focus on what's wrong or what's strong. So the interactions that focus on what's wrong, they take away from our sense of self and our ability to believe in ourselves. Interactions that focus on what's strong, they build on our sense of self and our ability to believe in ourselves. And they kind of feed on each other, because we get external stimulus to show what's wrong, interactions that highlight on what's wrong. Then our self-talk is easier to go into what's wrong about ourselves as well. So whereas when we believe in ourselves, when our belief in ourselves is stronger, it's easier to wash away from or let that external stimulus that focuses on what's wrong, we don't put as much weight on it when we have a strong sense of self. So, and our sense of self is always moving, and there are things that we can do ourselves to help build on our sense of self. So if we go back, I did say sense of self is made up of two things: interactions with ourselves, interactions with others, right? So we've got interactions with ourselves. What's our self-talk like? What practices do we take on board that focus on what's strong? And I did another podcast on this, on happiness. And one of the things that came up to me is that what makes me happy is making to-do lists and ticking them off. And it really occurred to me that yes, it's good to get the list done, but that's an interaction that I'm having with myself that focuses on what's strong. So that a small list is going to build up on my sense of self. And so, think about what practices do you have in your daily life that help build up on your sense of self. And there's a whole range of things that might come under self-care, or even doing exercise and eating healthy, but it doesn't have to be like that. It's anything that you enjoy and really focuses on your strengths, because that will, it's like I guess the sense of self is like, a dripping tap. So you want to put more drops into that bowl or into that sink. So we can do that ourselves. And then, it's not that we need positive interactions with others. We don't need others to show us our strengths. But if we've come from a situation where maybe our families were taught us to look on the negative, maybe we had perfectionism in the family, maybe we had strong criticism, and so it makes it harder for us to see our strengths. And sometimes what happens is when we're in that situation and it's hard for us to believe in ourselves, we tend to gravitate towards people around us who also don't believe in us, or they believe in us to the same level that we do. So if our level's here, we're going to mix with people who are here, So sometimes it's also about who are we mixing with, and do they focus on what's strong or what's wrong? And that can also be a clue as to, I guess, the quality of the relationships that we have. And it's not that we need people to focus on our strengths to help build our sense of self, but the reality is that when we don't, and we don't have a strong sense of self, it's going to bring us down. But the people we are around are a reflection of our internal processing and how we believe in ourselves. Because if we don't believe in ourselves, when we do believe in ourselves, then it's easier for us to walk away from that negativity and the doubt that others put on us.
How can we use this approach to, evaluate the impact of circle the relationship that around us? For example, the relationship, the families, the work relationship, or any other areas around our life, that how they support us or not really support us now.
I guess it's always going to be a reflection of ourselves. So if we have a lot of, look, family can be different because we're born into family, and that's how they are and that's who they are. But when we have a strong sense of self, it's easier for us to manage that situation. But if we look at, friends and people around us, then, it's a reflection of our own self-worth. Because if we have strong sense self-worth, we're gonna cut off people who, are toxic or who are continually criticizing us or being judgmental or bringing down our dreams and ideas. But when our sense of self is weak, we stay in those circles, because maybe we believe what they're saying as well. So it's really, and I've noticed this in my own friendship circles that, my friendship circles changed when I changed.
Mm.
And I guess that's, linked to the title of my book, It's Not You, It's Me. Because yes, we can be in situations where, they're toxic relationships or emotionally abusive or just not healthy. And I guess it takes courage and a lot of internal work to then be able to take that step to do whatever has to be done to then remove ourselves from that situation.
Ooh, this is how long have you been working on this? Like, this is a lifetime of work, right? Like we have to we have to like always, hey, wait, we need to reflect back to us again, so we realize that which direction we are going further. Wow,
that's right. It's a continual process.
Yeah. So in case anyone want to grab your book or follow your work, where can they find you then?
The best place is to go to my website, rosemarygattuso.com, and then there's also links there to all my social media platforms there, and it's all Rosemary Gattuso.
Okay, so I will make sure that we have your website links and your social media around here, and also the description as well as in the show notes. So everyone, I know that it's something that important and is a working process that, realize yourself and reflect. So self-aware and reflect, and then decide it what next for you. So watch this episode again if you didn't catch up anything. We have timestamp, and also check the book of Rosemary. It's Not You, It's Me. I mean, that's explain everything. So thank you so much, Rosemary, to join the episode today.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.
I hope this episode inspires you wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, so that you can have your business that supports your lifestyle. Get a show note at getunstuckmethod.com/podcast. Review what we have learned together today and start implementing right now. See it by yourself. The result of your consistent action are worth it. You deserve the freedom to enjoy your life. Until the next episode, let's get unstuck.